Where there is light, there must also be shadow. Purity and goodness does not exist in a vacuum, and those that live in the light tend to forget that peace is often hard won. While not frequently seen, those that dwell in the shadows wage a constant war for the benefit of others. In Liyue, we are time and again shown how integral the Qixing are to the functioning of the harbor city. But as the opening lines might have hinted, the Qixing do not go at this alone. There are sides of Liyue that only those acquainted with its shadows can keep at bay, and this is where Yelan comes in. Before we get into that, if you want to see more Genshin Impact content, do consider subscribing to the channel. In the city known for its trade, commerce, and contracts, information is as lethal as any weapon. Having even a snippet of information on one's competitors or any future business trends can help an experienced merchant gain the upper hand and navigate their way to riches. This is why many covet the knowledge Ningguang possesses, and would fight tooth and nail to get even a glimpse of her jade screen or even a piece of the many shredded papers she releases after her research sessions. But as skilled as Ningguang is, not all information is easily accessible to her. Sometimes she has to rely on certain individuals to procure this information, and her most trusted ally in this business is a mysterious person who claims to work for the Ministry of Civil Affairs, Yelan. The ministry is a rather transparent branch of the government, but if you were to go snooping around and look for Ningguang's mysterious informant, her name would not appear anywhere. In truth, Yelan functions as a special intelligence officer and directly reports to Ningguang. While the Liyue Qixing are mostly shown to direct the business activities of Liyue, they are also largely its leaders and must concern themselves with other aspects of city governance. This involves many things, but chief among them is keeping the city and its inhabitants safe, especially now more than ever with the supposed death of their protector Archon. And so Yelan's function is largely to keep the Tianquan of the Liyue Qixing informed on all matters she herself can't be seen dealing with or has no access to. Whether it's a plot to cripple a particular commercial arm within Liyue or even threats that might lead to the destruction of the harbor city itself, Yelan's job would be to chase down every potential threat and verify them herself. How Yelan gets this information is best left unanswered, but you can be sure she does not abide by Geneva Conventions. This information is crucial for the survival of the harbor city, and so she wages a constant battle behind the scenes to root out threats and stamp them out before they achieve their full effect. But is there a reason why she does any of this? Yelan's motivations, to be honest, are much like herself, elusive. You see, while Yelan and Ningguang know each other personally, nobody knows how they originally met. It's implied that she chose to carry out this role as a result of a pact both of them made long ago. We don't know the details of this pact, but it happened before either of them held any prominent position within Liyue. Yelan even hints that she had a part to play in the rapid rise of Ningguang to her current position of Tianquan, likely indicating they had planned this many years ago. Perhaps they chose to devote themselves to the survival and growth of the city, and each selected a role they would be best at. So Yelan has mentioned she continues doing what she does to really just uphold this pact. There is another reason why Yelan chooses to pursue this particular line of work. Yelan's ancestry actually goes back far enough in Liyue's lineage, and she is from a rather notable family. During the time of the Cataclysm 500 years ago, many monsters of the Abyss rose from the ground to attack the major cities of Tevat. In Liyue, this attack originated from the chasm. Yelan's ancestors were some of the few who actually bravely fought against these monsters, even going so far as to sacrifice themselves in order to defend Liyue. For a long time, Yelan did not know this and has felt an inexplicable draw to the chasm. Up till this point, she has done her role merely to live on the edge, as it was exciting for her, and she wasn't too driven by any sense of altruism. However, during the Chasm storyline, she was finally afforded the truth of why she is drawn to the Chasm. After finding out that her lineage was one of heroes and those who would sacrifice themselves for Liyue, she developed a different sense of purpose. Her resolve changed and she hoped to live up to this legacy of her ancestors, and now does it with some sense of meaning as to who she really is. So what are the results of Yelan's efforts? Does her contribution actually help Liyue, or is she just a weird stalker with a penchant for psychological torture? While most information she gathers does end up in the hands of Ningguang, she has actually assisted the Ministry of Civil Affairs in one rather important aspect. The ministry, while not as covert as Yelan, does monitor certain individuals to ensure they don't suddenly become a threat. They place these individuals on what's called the Special Attention List. Think of it as like the FBI's Most Wanted list. Those listed here aren't technically all bad guys, and some are actually Liyue's allies, such as Beidou and the Traveler. They are included only because each of them have the potential to be a threat should they choose to do so, and are just loosely monitored whenever they enter Liyue. Now, there is another list that isn't publicly known, the Secret Intelligence List. On this list are those who are considered to be the worst of the worst, the biggest threats to Liyue. Threats so incredibly dangerous that very few are privy to their names. Nobody really knows who is on this particular list, but the Fatui Harbingers, Abyss Leadership, and even some gods are hinted to be listed. So why am I telling you about these lists? Well, Yelan is the person largely responsible for painstakingly putting it together and updating it. Through her many investigations, she has compiled this list to ensure Liyue is never caught unaware on who might wish them harm. It's been implied that this blacklist has on numerous occasions ensured the survival of Liyue. The effort it took her to develop it is why she's quite familiar with other regions, even the Abyss itself, which she is heavily hinted to have visited numerous times. To put it simply, we will never really know the true scale of her contributions. Such is the nature of working in the shadows. But considering how safe Liyue generally is, we can only imagine how much worse it could be should Yelan not play her part. She has even thwarted the schemes of a Fatui Harbinger all by herself, but that's a story for another time. Despite her rather successful track record though, it hasn't always been just victories. In the past, Yelan did have a team to support her. Most of them were people who, for one reason or another, chose to play a more behind-the-scenes role in supporting Liyue. Early on, Yelan was a bit overconfident with her spycraft. Every so often, she would meet an adversary who could keep up with her tactics and skills, and each time, her team has had to pay the price. Most of them have accepted the death that comes with their line of work, but each of their death still weighs on her. So much so that she spent a large amount of time training in order to be able to carry the burden on her own, and is largely why she now works solo. This intense training and her conviction to work alone has even led to her obtaining a vision. Despite her rather hard life, Yelan has continued to act as the bulwark of Liyue in the shadows. She is no doubt one of the many who quietly defend Liyue and its way of life. While we don't know all of her exploits, given the nature of her work, it's likely the better she does her job, the less likely you are to hear about it. And so, those who live in the light will continue to do so, not knowing someone secretly defends them. That brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, do consider subscribing to the channel as it helps me out a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. As usual, have a nice day.